It may seem obvious to some, and not to others, but uh, I'll just ask it stupidly. Why does quality control? Why does quality matter? I mean, there's reputation, there's
Yeah.
financial. How is it that it affects the financial side?
Yeah. And it's funny, I was actually doing an interview yesterday with one of my guests. He owns a millwork company, and we're a craftsman based trade for the most part, right? And
Yeah.
so quality is a point of pride for most woodworkers. And so as a business owner, he was talking about how a lot of times we focus on that as woodworkers in the millwork trade of like, oh, well, we have the best quality. But in reality, as far as your value that you add to your customers in any business, and particularly in this trade, is that's kind of there's a baseline of quality that the customer expects. They're hiring you as the expert, and they're just assuming quality, and then your value add, your kind of differentiators on top of that. And so why quality control is important is because all it takes is, one bad job or one missed thing to kind of dent and tarnish your reputation and possibly lose future work. And even if it doesn't, it costs you as a business owner. If you're having to spend labor for fixing that mistake, or if you're having to buy and pay for materials to fix that mistake, obviously that's a cost to you as the owner that you're not able to recognize in value to your client and income. And so there's future lost potential, as well as today you're costing yourself money. I mean, that's really the black and white of it.
Yeah.
And so quality, as long as you're able to maintain that quality of what your clients are expecting kind of as that baseline, then you're able to focus on what is your value add above that differentiates you from everybody else who's offering the same quality.
Right. Martin, I think it's important that we probably distinguish between customer concessions and quality control. I know they kind of overlap in some ways, but we've talked a lot on our show about customer concessions and, really having really great expectations in place so that you don't have to concede to customers in instances where you didn't lay out the expectations properly. But what's the difference for you between quality control and customer customer concessions?
I'm glad that you asked that. I won't answer that directly, but maybe we can tie them together. My father ran a manufacturing company back in the 70s that made a Harvard Business Review as the most efficient trailer manufacturer in the United States.
Wow.
And he had a lot of philosophies. It was asphalt paving machines. It wasn't 16-foot utility trailers. But my dad used to always tell me, he said, you can add cost. Only the customer can add value. In other words, you're out there looking at something and thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I had this all within 10 thousandths, the door fits. Well, if the customer doesn't care about it, you just added a bunch of costs without adding any value. And two of the greatest examples of that I can think of are the controllers for TVs nowadays, right? And the controls on a microwave. Toshiba and Samsung and everybody else have added all these features on my control at my house. And I don't know how to use it. Well, I can turn it on and I can move it over to the right app, that I want to stream on, and that volume, and that's it, right? All the rest of that stuff, it added no value to me. Matter of fact, it detracted. And my microwave that we've had for years, a beautiful microwave, $1 thing, all I know how to do is put the food in there and hit start. And if I hit it twice, it's 60 seconds, and another time it's 90 seconds. So all that stuff they put in there added cost to the manufacturer, but did not add any value to me because I didn't perceive it. So I don't know if that exactly answers what you were asking.
Not necessarily. I think that's a fantastic point, though, because you can spend all day playing house and dressing up all of your deliverables for the customer and putting all these special features to your product or service. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to the customer.
Right.
So
right.
I've definitely lived through that. So I understand that.
That's a little bit off the subject of like checklists and how the cost, but I think it is an important point. It's matter of fact, it's like everything else we talk about, Khalil, on all our podcasts, pain and pleasure, understanding what the customer wants to get away from, what their difficulties are, and what their vision is. that's true of everybody. Your customer, your employees, your family, but a better understanding of what they value, and then deliver that without giving them a whole lot of other stuff that costs you hours of craftsmanship, Jacob. That's not necessary. Like finishing the back of cabinets that are going to go against the wall. I mean, I think most people don't do that, but that's the kind of thing like, oh, well, we need to finish the bottom of the drawers because we're craftsmen. Well, added about 30 hours to the process and added 0.0 to the revenue or the margin or the perceived quality by the customer.
Yeah. Well, so, and kind of what I was asking with customer concessions, quality control, and I guess it kind of does fall into the same thing, but I'm thinking of, whenever we've talked about like the pool builder that ends up not putting in their contract that the sprinkler is going to get messed up and they're not responsible. You know what I mean? And I guess that is quality control on the sales process maybe and on your contracts side of things. But in terms of like, that's something that you need to be a little bit more firm about and not just concede to.
Right.
Whereas, on a quality control thing, it's more so how are your processes internally? How are you managing the projects and following through with double checking your work, making sure that nothing's right.